Hey everyone, it's Liz here. So, as promised, I wanted to walk you through Shapeways in case you decide that you want to fabricate something that you've made in one of these classes. So, just to kind of walk you again through where we left off. So, this was the Liz ring from the first week script ring class. So, basically, once you're happy with your model, you can click export. And then you have the choice of exporting an OBJ or STL. Really, it doesn't matter. Shapeways will accept both. I go STL, just used to that. And then your model will pop up down here. So, this is Shapeways. So I definitely encourage everyone to, if you're not familiar with Shapeways, check it out to kind of walk through the website. They talk about their technology, the materials, partners. They have a really nice website, and you can really get like a good sense of some of the applications for 3D printing. So if you do want to move to fabrication, so you'll need an account to place an order. I believe you can upload a model without an account, but to finalize the order, you have to have one. So go ahead and create your account, and then you can either go to your icon and click My Models Upload or Start Making and Upload Now. So this is the interface that you'll be brought to. And basically, you are going to then drag your model right over here. And this, in this case, it uploads pretty quickly. If you have a really detailed model with a lot of different little intricate details on it, this will take longer. It could actually take even like a couple of minutes. So I often will just like load something up and then do something else and come back to it. And then in that case, it will be up under the My Models once it's loaded. So you can see now there's a preview. So visually, you can verify that this is the correct model. There's a little information down here, including the unit of measure that that the file type is formatted for, the name of the file right here, and then your materials guide and basically asking you to select a material. So you can see that there are some prices listed under these materials, and that is basically the very base price of any of these materials for the model that I just loaded. And I definitely recommend like diving deeper into these materials because there's varying, various plastics, metals, all kinds of different options here. Sandstone, which is kind of like cement, a multicolor plastic. So you can really see like there's a lot of ways to fabricate. This ring, or as well as any model that you make, will be suitable for some materials and will not be suitable for others. So just because there is a price listed doesn't mean that the model can be successfully made in that material. And I'll dive into that in a second. So if you were watching on screen for the script ring, I had shown some examples in brass, some examples in bronze, and in sterling silver. And brass is that sort of yellow kind of gold color. Bronze is sort of like a slightly pinker version of that. So if you like rose gold, it's kind of like a rose gold. And then silver is, of course, silver. So let's just click on brass and I will show you the options. So brass has just two options. Some of the plastics have a lot more, including colors that are available, like up to like 10 colors. So definitely check those out. But so really, the price down here that you see now is for the most basic finish. So in this case, natural selected, and that is light polishing to achieve a matte, textured, somewhat rough surface, versus polished, which is hand polished to achieve a smooth, shiny surface. So you can see when I clicked polish that my price updated. So the price that it shows you is always the most inexpensive and the sort of which is the default. In this case, when it comes to metals, I do recommend going more that polished route. The natural, when it comes to both all three, silver, bronze, and brass, are really a pretty rough, coarse surface finish. And so when you're used to seeing jewelry in stores, like at like a Macy's counter, you're gonna like look through, rings. They're all gonna be like really shiny brass. Those are polished metals, and The natural version is essentially like if you plan to do any hand finishing, so if you plan to do like a lot of polishing yourself or additional shaping, you could consider the natural metal finish. But basically, this is like, think of natural as being like just cleaned up from the fabrication process. So in this case, they're going to 3D print the model that I upload. They're then going to take that, in this case, castable wax model, and they're going to cast it into a solid brass part. That casting is coarse, it's very textural, it needs to be cleaned up. And so the natural finish is really just cleaning it up to the point where it's, it's a finished piece, but it's by no means like a high shine polished piece. So that's a bit about the sort of finishing options. So be sure to read what you're sort of ordering before you do, just to make sure that you're getting what you want. So one thing I do want to point out here, I had mentioned that not every model could be made in every single material. So to verify if your design, your ring in this case, will be successful, you want to click on Tools and you want to open it in 3D Tools. So when you click on 3D Tools, this secondary interface comes up. And again, we see our model kind of larger right here. And you can see that there's a bunch of these like checks that are kind of currently being done. And I've got some green check marks here. I have this sort of yellow yield sign here, and I'm waiting on the rest. So what you're going to be looking for is ideally you have all green check marks across the board right here. If you have a yield, that essentially means that there's an area that could be an issue, which will flag someone to look at manually before your order is processed. If you have a red like X instead of this yield, that means that your model will not be able to be fabricated as it is. And so what I want you to do is if you have anything other than the green check mark, you want to click on that. And it's going to give you some guidelines around your wall thickness. And one thing I will mention, I almost forgot to mention this. This is important. So right now it's saying you're in 3D Tools for white natural versatile plastic. Well, I am not ordering in white natural versatile plastic. I am ordering in brass. So I need to scroll down and find brass. I want to order in polished brass. So do make sure, it's a little bit like a small detail to easily overlook, but I want to make sure that I'm in my 3D tools, evaluation tools for the right material that I plan to order. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. So polished brass, here's my model. I've clicked on the wall thickness, which had the little yield sign. And what it's telling me right now is that the wall thickness, minimum thickness for polished brass is 0.8 millimeters, whether it's a supported wall or whether it's a sort of offshoot unsupported wall. So what I do over here now is I say, oh, look at all this red area right there. Okay, it's telling me that this area is too thin. It's not meeting the minimum wall thickness of 0.8. So at this point, because I have this yield sign, it's sort of saying slow down, don't like stop necessarily. I could choose to try and put this through and place the order if I want and sort of cross my fingers and hope that they process it and it's successful. Or I could at this point go back, now that I've gotten some feedback right there, I could go back to my model. I could say, oh, okay, well, I know the area that needs to be fixed. I can go in there. Now I'm using Scribble, so of course this is a bit easier to fix. It's not always as easy when you've been using like full proper tools like basic shapes. In this case, it's fairly easy because I can kind of just redraw my design, hit OK. Let me re-export, get my new one. Okay, so then let's go back to model. And then let's see if I can update. I may not be able to update from here. I'm just going to go and re-upload. This is my newest one, re-uploading. And I am just going to go right back to tools as soon as I am allowed to. So I can tell that's my newer one, so with the thicker little wing. Tools, open in 3D Tools. So now we're going to be looking for this area right there. And again, let's make sure I'm in brass. Oops. Polished brass. Just go ahead and click on wall thickness while we're waiting. So again, the same guidelines pop up here. And I will actually come back to this in a second. So it can sometimes take a little bit. I think also it was probably still processing my old model. So I will point out that if you feel like you want to just like peruse the materials available, which I definitely recommend before ideally before you even start modeling something, you know what material you're going to be printing it in or fabricating it in. Because there can be some pretty dramatically different guidelines depending on the material itself, even if it's metal to metal. So meaning that printing something in gold or in silver may have very different requirements than printing something in steel, for example. But this is a great site. So I basically came here through Start Making and then 3D Materials Guide, and that's this page. And so this is really kind of categorizing materials. So materials that are inexpensive and are very high performance. So that versatile plastic, you can see if you click on it, you can go and see all the different colors that are available, some design guidelines. Each of the materials pages is structured the same, and you can really kind of read through it based on what materials you are interested in. So TPU, steel, you could really get a sense of all these different materials that are available. And then copper, which is gorgeous, kind of a nice rosy color. Platinum and gold, if you're, looking to make something super high end. Silver. So you can really kind of, and then more industrial use case, really functional, really rugged materials, and then sort of replica model building, hobbyist materials, and then premium materials. So you can really see the wide variety of what you have as material options. So let's go back and see. Okay, so we've loaded. So this is what we're looking for. Notice now I have a green check mark, and I no longer have any of that red in here. There is this little snippet of red right in there. It's not calling it out though as being an issue, so I'm going to really disregard, and I would say you'll have no problem fabricating this model from here. Generally speaking, I'm trying to create designs that you will not run into issues with, but you will need to kind of go through this process regardless of your design to make sure that it is going to be successfully fabricated. So then from there, I'm saying, yeah, let's go 3D print it. And then I'm going to go back, brass, polished brass, because I want that nice, beautiful finish, add to cart. And then check out now.